Syria's state news agency SANA reported on Wednesday, quoting a military source, said one person was killed and 3 soldiers were injured as a result of Israeli aggression in the Damascus countryside. The military source said Israel carried out a rocket attack from northern Galilee targeting air defenses in the Nabal Habil area in the Damascus countryside. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, a war monitor, also reported that Israeli strikes targeted Syrian air defense headquarters in Damascus countryside. According to the Britain-based Monitor Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, Hezbollah positions near the town of Zabadani, close to the Lebanese border, were also targeted in the strike. U.S. State Department officials have drawn up a proposal to designate Cuba as a state sponsor of terrorism, a final-hour foreign policy move that would complicate plans by the incoming Biden administration to relax increased American pressure on Havana. With 3 weeks left until Inauguration Day, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo must decide whether to sign off on the plan, according to 2 U.S. officials, a move that would also serve as a thank you to Cuban Americans and other anti-communist nations in Florida who strongly supported President Donald Trump and his fellow Republicans in the November election. It's unclear whether Secretary of State Pompeo has decided to move ahead with the designation. U.S. President-elect Joe Biden on Wednesday vowed a relentless effort to fight COVID-19 the moment he takes office, as he warned that Donald Trump's vaccination drive was falling dangerously short. Speaking after a briefing by experts, President-elect Biden promised that as president, he will undertake the greatest operational challenge to inoculate against the illness that has claimed more than 1.7 million lives globally. The Trump administration had predicted that 20 million Americans would be vaccinated by the end of December. With less than 3 days left, according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, only some 2.1 million have received the first shot of the vaccine. Strict stay-at-home orders were renewed indefinitely on Wednesday for much of California, a leading U.S. hotspot of the COVID-19 pandemic, as the state's top health officials said that many hospitals were on the brink of crisis. Tough restrictions imposed earlier this month on social and economic life were extended in densely populated Southern California, home to more than half of the state's 40 million people, based on data showing intensive care units likely to stay filled at or near capacity for weeks to come. The stay-at-home orders, among the strictest in the United States, are also being renewed in the agricultural heartland of the San Joaquin Valley, whose hospital ICUs have likewise remained for weeks with little or no bed space to spare. Media reports said British Prime Minister Boris Johnson has approved placing more parts of the country into Tier 4 restrictions as the country battles a new variant of COVID-19, which scientists say can spread more rapidly. Ministers were considering imposing the toughest measures on parts of the swathes of England and Cumbria, where the variant appears to be gaining ground, even though cases remain relatively low, said the report. Health Minister Matt Hancock will give an update on regional coronavirus restrictions on Wednesday. Health Minister Oliver Véran said Wednesday France is considering starting its curfew earlier in the evening in parts of the country to try to contain the spread of the coronavirus. The minister added the government has for the moment ruled out a return to a full lockdown entire nationally or at the local level. The new measure was discussed at a meeting of top ministers and health officials chaired by President Emmanuel Macron on Tuesday. The city's governor said on Wednesday Tokyo's coronavirus outbreak is severe and could explode in the coming days, just as Japan begins its New Year's holiday period, in which millions of people usually move around the country. The capital recorded 944 new coronavirus cases on Wednesday, just under the record 949 recorded on Saturday, and medical experts warned that unless outbreak is checked, the city could soon see over 1,000 new patients a day. The governor said that Tokyo was at a critical juncture, which could winter weather forecasts and highly contagious variant strains of the coronavirus from Britain and South Africa already detected in Japan. South Korea is contemplating whether to raise its social distancing measures to the highest level as the country continues to report high numbers of new coronavirus cases and deaths under the third and deadliest wave of the pandemic here. The Prime Minister urged in a meeting Wednesday that the country should thoroughly prepare virus control strategies following the end of this weekend, when the Level 2.5 social distancing rules in the Greater Seoul area and Level 2 rules in the rest of the country come to an end. Korea on Wednesday reported 1,050 new COVID-19 cases, 1,025 locally transmitted, and 25 imported from overseas, raising the total number of cases recorded in the country to 59,773. Phase 3 trials of a Sinopharm coronavirus vaccine found it was 79% effective, the Chinese pharma giant said Wednesday, lower than rival jabs developed by Pfizer-BioNTech and Moderna, but a potential breakthrough in the battle to stem the pandemic is in Asia. China has been racing against the West to develop its own COVID-19 vaccines, with 5 already in large-scale Phase 3 clinical trials. What Wednesday's announced was the first data release regarding the efficiency of a Chinese vaccine candidate. Singapore has begun vaccinating healthcare workers with Pfizer-BioNTech's COVID-19 vaccine, kicking off one of Asia's first inoculation programs against a pandemic that has killed more than 1.7 million people globally. The health ministry said a 46-year-old nurse and 43-year-old infectious disease doctor were among the more than 30 staff at the National Center for Infectious Diseases who were vaccinated on Wednesday. They will return for the second dose of the vaccine on January 20th. A strong earthquake in central Croatia has killed at least 7 people, injured more than 20, and caused a significant destruction in Petrinja, a town southeast of the capital Zagreb. Tuesday's earthquake, which cut phone lines and sent Croatians into a state of shock, was felt throughout the country, neighboring Serbia, Bosnia, and Herzegovina, as far away as the Serbian capital Vienna. It was the second quake in the area in as many days. Croatian Defense Minister reported 6 deaths. Rescue teams shoveled away debris in search of victims after the tremor, while the European Union announced that more help was on its way. A spokesman for Iraq's electricity ministry said Iran will resume normal gas flows to Iraq on Wednesday after reaching an agreement with Iraq on Tuesday over unpaid bills. Iran's state gas company said on Monday it had slashed supplies to neighboring Iraq over arrears of more than $6 billion. The Iraqi electricity ministry said the cuts placed Baghdad and other cities at risk of serious power shortages. The spokesman said an agreement was reached during a meeting between Iranian energy minister, who is visiting Baghdad, and Iraqi counterpart Majid Mahdi to resume normal gas flows rates as of Wednesday evening. The Scottish Parliament is expected to refuse consent to the Brexit trade deal in a vote in the next 24 hours. The SNP, Scottish Labour, Scottish Liberal Democrats and Scottish Greens have already outlined their decision not to back the agreement, meaning it's unable to gain a majority unless MPs break the party line. A debate is due to be held in Holyrood on Wednesday afternoon before the vote. American Airlines on Wednesday launched the first commercial flight of a Boeing 737 MAX in the United States since the plane was grounded worldwide following 2 deadly crashes that killed hundreds and plunged the airplane manufacturer into crisis. The MAX was Boeing's top-selling aircraft, and the company struggled through the nearly 2 years that the plane was banned from skies globally. A situation made worse by a sharp slowdown in travel caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. Boeing has worked with regulators to address technical issues and improve pilot training on the MAX, leading countries to allow it to return to service, starting with a domestic flight by Brazilian budget carrier Gol Air this month.